One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho, hailing from Leeds, England, now based in LA, California. Julian Shah-Tayler, aka the Singularity Music, is a singer, songwriter, and producer. He's recorded over 400 pieces of music and worked with many artists, such as Peter Murphy and David J. of Bauhaus. Julian has worked closely with Depeche Mode's But Not Tonight producer Robert Margouleff for his own project, The Singularity, or new albums and singles being currently released. He's also contributed vocals to projects for the likes of Johnny Marr and Ringo Starr, and won international awards for his arrangement, work with Lana Del Rey, and songwriting performance for ASCAP. He's recently released new music with David J. And also Alain Whyte of Morrissey and Wayne Hussey, The Mission UK, and has had his work featured in Breaking Bad and The Sopranos, on top of his international reputation as a DJ and producer, singer, songwriter. He has appeared on the cover of LA Weekly and has been named in their top 10 tribute bands list for his David Bowie tribute, the band that fell to earth, as frontman for Electric Duke, which often opens for Strangelove on tour. A prolific and diverse talent, Shah-Tayler, who also records under the moniker The Singularity, draws his inspiration from 80s and 90s new wave, Britpop, and electronic rock with lyrics inspired by literature and a lifetime of professional touring. Fans have described his sound as if David Bowie and Depeche Mode had a baby. Synth-driven, complex, and sexy music to make love and groove to. Please welcome Julian Shah-Tayler to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Julian.
Hello, Ray. How are you?
Let me tell you, man, and I'm going to be very sincere. I don't know why you're not a superstar.
It would help pay the bills, so maybe
You're
one day.
Incredible, man. Your album, Elysium is incredible. I love it. It's like one of my favorite albums of the year so far.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm glad we kind of hooked up on Facebook because, it's a great pleasure. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm working on something new this year. So Elysium was the number 4 new wave album of 2022. For a new wave podcast, and I got put forward on the ballot for 6 Grammys this year. And
fantastic.
I don't have the infrastructure, so we never get a look in at that point, but it's all good.
Here's what I said about the album. Okay, I said, who says there can only be one David Bowie? The sheer brilliance of Julian Shah-Tayler is indisputable throughout his magnificent masterpiece album, Elysium. If Bowie had released a follow-up to Black Star, it may have sounded much like Elysium. 5 stars. How's that?
Ray, I'm very honored. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen even. So I'm very pleased that you liked it.
It's your voice is incredible. You do, sound a lot like Bowie, but so what? We miss Bowie.
I mean, people have always said that. It hasn't really been anything I've intended to do. It's just I guess the physiognomy of the vocal folds is similar, I imagine, but
there's nothing wrong with that, man. The new album, I believe someone said it, probably you, the story of the love of my life from the very moment we met and the subsequent and very relatable emotional roller coaster that comes with the territory of being in love and overcoming vast distances, both literal and metaphorical. Talk about the new album.
So we're talking about Elysium here, yes?
Yes, Elysium.
Okay. So yes, it's about my ex-fiancée, Eva. Strangelove is her moniker, and I wrote it basically around just everything related to our trajectory of our relationship, and unfortunately from the beginning to the end. And it was not intended that way. It was actually released before we split up, but there were a few songs that have come out recently, subsequently, one called Fall Apart, which also illustrates the kind of end of things. I'm always inspired by my own personal, life experiences, and love being very central to the way I look at the world. I want the world to be full of love and kindness, particularly for my little girl. I have a 9-year-old daughter.
Oh,
and I want her to experience the world with all its joy and pleasure rather than all its, unhappiness and darkness. So I want to put love out into the world. I don't want to be negative about things. And I am very grateful to Eva for being there and being the person that was the focus of that. Because it didn't work out in the end does not mean that it did not happen in such a wonderful way in the first place. So
what does your daughter think about your music?
It's quite funny actually. She will listen to something in the car, and she will always ask me now she says, is this your music, Daddy, or is this Bowie? Because she wants to be sure that if she's listening to something, she gives her opinion as long as it doesn't hurt my feelings, you see, because she's such a sensitive little thing that.
Oh, that's funny. She's going to be.
I think she likes it. I mean, she's never said she doesn't like it, but it's not really her thing. I mean, she's getting into the Taylor Swift and, the Troll soundtrack and all that sort of stuff. So some of my stuff is more her cup of tea. I mean, I have some very lighthearted, fun songs as well. Actually, one big one coming this year, which is a single called Easy. And hopefully that will actually be the one that takes me to the global superstardom that I would.
Are you working on that on your own, or are you working with that with collaborating with some other people?
Well, this year is interesting because I've actually the whole Bowie connection seems to really follow me. Because of my similarity, I guess vocally to Bowie, I perform as Bowie quite a lot, and I've met a lot of the Bowie collaborator musicians. So on the next record, I have Mike Garson, who's the piano player who played with David Bowie from Aladdin Sane all the way up to the end. And, Carmine Rojas, who's a good friend of mine, who's playing bass on a lot of it. He played on the Let's Dance album. He's playing on another like eight of my songs so far on the new album. And Alan Childs, who played with Bowie on the Glass Spider tour, is playing drums on one of the songs. And then I have, a lot of collaborators, but it's mostly been recorded by me at home. Some of it's in consultation with Robert Margouleff. Again, he produced Stevie Wonder and Devo, and we've been working together a lot recently because we're good friends, and I love the way that he interprets what I do. He brings out the more I tend to go more goth and ethereal, and he tries to focus me. He brings more like the black music out in my performance. So something like End of the Line on Elysium and Secret, which are more funky. That's a lot to do with Robert's influence. He brought that through those songs because he likes the black side of me. He worked with Stevie Wonder. He sees me as like a kind of a Stevie Wonder type artist.
Right.
And of course, I've always seen myself more in the, Depeche Mode, Bowie realm. But then Bowie did a lot of collaboration. He had a lot of black artists in his band, which brought out that funk in him too. So I guess, I'm working a bit more with people nowadays because the Elysium album is predominantly just me on my own at home. So
how many? It says you're a multi-instrumentalist. How many instruments do you play, and what instruments do you play?
Well, my principal instruments are piano, guitar, bass.
Right.
Those are my, and synths. I mean, synths I would class as a different type of instrument too, because you have to program them and all that stuff. I would say I listened to Prince when I was very young, and I discovered that he'd played 32 instruments on record. So I made it my mission to play more. So I have played over 32 instruments on.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Wow.
But it's bass, drums, piano, guitar, but that's mostly my instruments.
Yeah. Well, I love it. You're playing actual instruments because today, you all you need is a, I don't know, synthesizer, and you can recreate any instrument you want, basically. You
Well, I
know,
like to combine the two. I mean, I think that we shouldn't limit ourselves to, just acoustic guitar
right.
or just synths. I think you should
Hmm.
really sort of like have a combination of them all. I mean, I reach for whatever's available to me to try and make music because I once I'd written 100 songs on an acoustic guitar, then I'd written 100 on piano.
Right.
You've got to mix it up a bit, you know.
Sure.
So what do you play, Ray?
I
Like
play
I said,
guitar. I
uh-huh.
play, yeah, I've been playing guitar for, I took lessons, as a kid and everything. But I would love to play piano. That's really my love is to play piano. I love it when you can just get behind the keys and, you know, play, play
Piano's
anything.
easier than guitar, I think.
That's what they say. Yeah.
I mean, I
But
guess whatever you learn first always seems like the simple
yeah,
one.
exactly. I used to jam with my son. My son's a great drummer, you
Okay.
know, and but he's busy at the moment with kids. I have 5 grandkids, and he's got identical twin girls, so I'm there with you. We
No,
babysit a lot.
I have the one. I have the one. She's 9, and
Yeah.
that's she's enough. I mean, she's absolutely fine. She's wonderful. There's no complaints at all. She's very good, well
Yeah.
behaved,
Good.
very bright. So
Good,
I'm
good, good.
thrilled with her.
Yeah, hopefully she'll pick up your genes and who knows.
Well, I hope she doesn't go into music. It's not as remunerative as it ought to be.
Yeah, I know. I was a top 40 DJ back in the late 70s. So, I was playing Blondie and the Cars and, all the good stuff back in the
Yeah,
day,
let's talk about Make Believe Friends. They're friends
Yeah.
of mine. What a
They're
great record.
cool, aren't they? That's a great
Oh,
album too.
lovely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And no, I'm thrilled with them. That's how I heard about you because I saw you'd interviewed them and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So
I've had Laura on the show 3 times since her London Rain days with
okay.
Nikki. I'm still
Okay.
friends with Nikki.
Uh-huh.
Always love their music. They're great, very talented. Very,
Oh,
very
for sure.
talented band. Well, I'm going to talk about the album. It starts out with End of the Line. I love because you got a lot of videos with your music. People love videos.
Mm.
Visual is very, very important. End of the Line, you kind of started out kind of a Pink Floyd opening, like another brick in the wall. It kind of reminded me of that in the beginning. And that was one of my favorite tracks.
One
Um, your songwriting is incredible, you know very impressed. And I did like The Devil Knows, featuring David. Um, I'm just going to read some of the lyrics because I was really impressed. I love the lyrics. I don't belong to you like you don't belong to me. There's a space behind your eyes. That's a cool lyric. There's a space behind your eyes that I can feel. I don't need anything you can offer me. I just want to know conditions of your smile. I mean, it's so prolific. You're definitely not only a wordsmith, but you know, very poetic,
thing.
and it's incredible. Talk about the devil knows. Talk about that track.
Well, funnily enough, the End of the Line and Devil Knows are the only 2 songs that I wrote about the end of the prior relationship before
Right,
the subject of the album. It was the end of the line with the relationship, and then the Devil
right.
Knows is a song about trying to reach somebody and trying everything you can for so long. I mean, the lyric in the chorus goes, the devil knows I tried, heaven knows I tried,
Hmm.
because we really did. It's my ex-wife actually, and I tried very hard to fix that thing for years, and you realize, when you quoted the lyrics, it's like you look at somebody and you are trying to see something in them and see reflected in you the sort of, the love that you have for them, or the love you expect to derive from them, and there's a space there, there's a nothing there, that you're not getting the flow, the
Hmm.
joy back. So that's what that means. I mean, and those 2 songs, that's the ridiculous, ridiculous. That's the reason they're the first two songs on the record, is not because they belong on as the first two songs. It's just they are the ones that mark the end of that prior relationship. So they sort of bookend. And actually, funnily enough, if I were to be perfectly honest, the last song, Darkling You, is almost the end of the next relationship. It wasn't, but there's the single that followed the album called Fall Apart.
Right.
Sort of is. That's kind of the where we fell off the cliff and everything went a bit wrong. So, but Darkling Universe was where the big cracks started to appear. And also the song Kintsugi. But do you know what Kintsugi is?
I do. It's an embracing of the flawed or imperfect. Is that right?
It is. It's specifically, it's a Japanese pottery tradition where
right. I did see that. Yeah.
Right. You drop the the pottery and it breaks, and you fix it with golden glue,
right,
with gold dust in it, which means that you get this more beautiful thing through the flaws. And so Kintsugi and Darkling You, they're definitely the cracks beginning to appear. And I have an attitude towards life. It's like if you go through something and it goes wrong, and you try to fix it and it's just wrong and it's not going to work, then you just have to face it and just say, okay, well, I love what happened. I love that we had this thing, and now it's and it's okay. You can't hate that it's disappeared now. You just have to live with it. I'm quite stoic in that sense.
Yeah, you can't hold the grudge forever. You got to let it go at some point, I guess.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a couple of tunes on this album that should be hits. I'm good at picking hits, but of course, commercial radio is not like what it used to be. If I had my way, a lot of your songs would be on the radio and top 40s, hits. Melt is one of them. Oh my God, I love that tune.
That was in the top. That was voted by the listeners of. I'm going to read it off my poster. Give me a second. The poster up here is.
Sure.
All right. It doesn't have the definition of where it comes from. But so it was number 17 of 2022 for one of the, big podcast people that we want. I love Melt. Melt is the first song I wrote when I saw Eva. I saw her. I didn't meet her really. I just saw this woman, this vision in goth beauty, this angel. And I went home and I wrote the song about this girl, not knowing whether I'd ever see her again. And I did.
Right. Wow.
I believe music sometimes is like casting a magic spell out into the world. Like if you put an intention into the world, that's real magic. And if it's, emotional, if it's coupled with, real feeling and real focus, then it can be magic. I teach my daughter that. It's like Harry Potter isn't real magic.
Sure.
What's real magic is the words you use and the things you focus on.
I agree. If it wasn't for music, I wouldn't be here today.
Sure.
Music has gotten a lot of people through a lot of tough times, and still does. I always refer back to the war, like the Vietnam War, and how many guys were in the foxholes listening to Jimi Hendrix and, all kinds of great, Jesse Colin Young. I talked to all those guys, Jesse Colin Young and all the guys from the 60s. And they said they always get the military guys coming up to them and saying how much their music meant to them, while they were in war, so. And again, COVID has brought out so much music, it really has, so.
Yeah, Elysium was pretty much finished during COVID. I mean, I did a lot of live streams. That was the way I made my living during COVID. I obviously Bowie live streams and also my own music live streams, and it was great. I mean, it kept a lot of people felt very grateful for that, and I'm honored to be the focus of that, because it could have been a very depressing time for a lot of people, and
exactly
something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly right. Who played guitar on Melt? Who played the electric guitar?
Me.
Oh, was that you? Oh, wow. Quite
Most
a
you can't.
quite
I
a-
mean, most of the songs, there's no guitars by anybody else except for on um, Evolution, which is
Mhm,
MGT, and my friend Gene Makowski. I think
right.
that's it. Actually, I think that's the only other guitarist I have on there.
Hmm, incredible. Secret was kind of cool commercial pop tune.
Mhm.
Could also be a hit on the
That's
radio.
that's been on lots of that's been on lots of radio shows. That's one of my biggest
Yeah,
streaming songs.
great song, man. Um, Evolution. I heard Bowie, of course, but I also heard a little Cars influence because I'm a big Cars fan. So,
I'm not super familiar with the Cars. I got to be honest with you. I went to boarding school until I
right.
was 18. So all that 80s, I had to go back and experience it because I left boarding school when I was what 1990, something like that.
Huh.
So 89, I experienced the Stone Roses was a big influence.
Hmm.
Prince was a big influence, and The Cure.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I didn't hear anything. Like I had
Really?
to seek that stuff out. Well, we weren't allowed to have radios or record players in our places. Like boarding school, it's difficult to have all the kids listening to different music, so they just
Right.
banned it. So yeah, I had to explore backwards in time. When I escaped boarding
Hmm.
school, went to university, I then experienced this big efflorescence of music, and most of
Yeah.
it was techno. Actually, I was really into Orbital and
Hmm.
the Orb and Underworld and all that stuff. So it was PJ Harvey that saved me from electronic music. And PJ came along, and it was just like
Yep.
back into it.
Yeah. What was boarding school like? Is that very strict?
Yeah, it was very strict. I mean, I got away with a lot. I didn't get caught for anything, but
Right.
we were getting up to all sorts of shenanigans. It was a lot of fun being in boarding school because, of course,
Hmm.
it's just a bunch of kids.
Hmm.
And I'm very lucky. I'm quite gregarious, and I survived those environments quite well.
Yeah.
So I had lots of friends, and we were getting up to all sorts of fun stuff. I'm the guy that has friends who are nerds, but also has friends who are jocks. I mean,
Right.
not the terms in England in boarding school, but
Right.
I was reasonably well served by friends. So
Hmm.
I had a fine time. It was okay.
I was like that too. I call it being a chameleon, you know. Any
Absolutely,
group I got along with.
yeah.
You
And
know.
and why not? I mean, you don't
Yeah,
have to pigeonhole yourself. I mean,
exactly.
in music, that's tricky because I had a conversation with a Radio One DJ
Hmm.
I was friends with in London,
Hmm.
and he told me, your music, because he really appreciates and respects me as an artist.
Sure.
But he told me, look, your music is not. You got to decide: are you Coldplay or are you Sonic Youth?
Hmm.
If you do something in between, nobody can play your record. And there's something very true about that. It's like I've never been goth enough to be on the goth scene.
Hmm.
I've never been funky enough to be on the funk scene. I've never been pop enough to be on the pop scene. I've never been alternative enough to be on the alternative scene. So that's been a real disadvantage for me with my music. So even though the people that hear it, like yourself, appreciate it and really
Hmm.
like it, you have to have heard about it and given it a chance.
Right.
Won't make it onto radio, and that's frustrating.
Well, commercial radio sucks, and it has for many, many years. I mean, lawyers and it all started, I think, with Bill Clinton when he passed a bill where you know radio can be taken over by one company, and you can have 50 stations under one umbrella. One guy programs 50 stations. It's not localized anymore, and you took the DJs out of it, which was
Right.
stupid. You know what I mean? I mean, back in the 50s and early 60s, radio was fantastic. You know what I mean? You had Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, Motown, everybody was on the radio and on one station, you know?
Right.
But today it's so programmed and ridiculous. And even
Well, it's
classic rock and things like that, they play the same songs over and over again, you know?
Foo Fighters followed by Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Yeah,
followed another Foo Fighters, followed
right.
by the same Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
Exactly right. And the same song over and over again, you know?
Absolutely.
They
It
don't
becomes
dig deep and fine. They're lazy.
right.
Basically, they're lazy, you know?
It seems that way, but it's also the gatekeeping process. It's got a
Right.
lot to do with genre more
It's
than it has
terrible.
to do with, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it, because you know what, the people that do find my music
Yep.
really love it, and they connect with me, because
Yep.
I will respond to people when they write to me or they talk with me, because I'm honored that my music, because obviously I make my money doing tribute,
Yeah.
with the Depeche Mode tribute, Strangelove, and with my Bowie tribute. That's how I make my money. And so if somebody likes my music and can take their time to listen to it, then I feel very honored, you know.
I just had a band on. Advent Horizon is the name of the band. They're progressive rock. I do a lot of prog rock because the musicians are incredible, you know,
Mhm.
and I do a lot of prog rock from all over the world. Same thing. He belongs to 3 tribute bands to make money, and he's doing very well with those bands.
Which ones does he do, just out of interest?
Um, let's see. He did a Pink Floyd tribute. He does one. He's got 3 different type of genres. One does mainly Motown, you know,
Okay.
hits and things like that. He even does weddings and all kinds of stuff. But you know, he doesn't want to take the artistic self out of the equation by just doing that because he's brilliant as well. You know.
You do, but it's interesting because I do Bowie, and
Yeah.
I do Bowie well. I'm not going to be
Yes, you do.
false modest about it, and it teaches you a lot about your own like way of performing and what communicates with people.
He
So
said the same thing. He said the same thing.
yeah,
It
so
makes you a performer, right?
as a performer, it
Yeah.
really works for you, and also as a songwriter, it's like which songs really resonate with people, so you can choose to pursue those paths of your own music. Because I don't know how deeply you've been in my stuff. I have an entire album which is basically acoustic. I have an entire album which is basically 90s rock, like Queens of the Stone Age. I
Right.
have this Elysium album, which is my heart and
Yeah.
soul on record, which
Right.
is all over the place stylistically. Like it sounds like Roxy music here, it sounds like Bowie here, it sounds like Queens of the Stone Age here. It's like it's not a consistent sound. So, which songs resonate with people mostly, I don't know until I've performed it live. And to perform it live, I mean, I'm very lucky. I get to open up, like for example, this weekend I'm opening up in Toronto for Strangelove with my originals to 2 sold out shows.
Oh, fantastic.
So, it's like bypassing the 12 people in a room process where you just
Yeah.
tour and tour and tour. So,
Yeah.
and that's wonderful, because then people get to see me play and they like Depeche Mode and they like David Bowie already. So I'm there.
Yeah. So are you in both bands then? Are you playing on stage?
I'm in Strangelove. Yeah.
That's great. Talk about exposure. Wow.
Oh, I'm in front of thousands of people every weekend. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fabulous. It's I mean, if you feed off the ego,
Yep.
to a degree, everybody does, then it's great. It's a great ego boost. I'm in front of thousands of people. But what really is meaningful is people who resonate with the artistry and with the songwriting. Like you listen to the lyrics, which is very, to me, that's great flattery. I mean, I put a lot of time and love
Of course.
and I want people to feel that and resonate with it. And most of my audience tends to be sort of 35 plus women, honestly. So it's mostly musicians, men, who listen to my stuff. And when somebody listens wholeheartedly with their full heart, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ray.
Well, it doesn't hurt that you're a good looking guy either.
Well, maybe 20 years ago, who knows? You're going to put a youth filter on this, right?
Yeah, no problem. I just turned 65, man. So, but in here, I still feel like I'm right out of high school,
Right. You don't change. I mean, my mother tells me this all the time.
Yeah.
She's like, I look in the mirror and I see this weird old face looking back at me, and I just feel like I'm 16 with
Exactly.
the eyes on the the world.
Yeah, it's true.
So do I. I mean, I like experience. Having experience is wonderful, and having wisdom to a degree is wonderful. But and I actually feel better now than I ever have, because
Good.
like I'm making some traction in the real world,
Right.
and something out there that really matters to people. So No, I feel good.
Good, good, good. That's the most important thing. Well, back to the album. Is it Lupin or Lupine? Howl at the Moon.
Lupine,
That's
yes.
a cool tune. You talk about being different, than the other songs,
Right.
that's
Yes. I actually wrote that at Eva's request. Eva was the focus of the album,
uh-huh.
and she's a burlesque dancer. So
Really?
she wanted a song that kind of felt like she could dance burlesque to, and she really liked it. So
Is she on the video? Is that her on the video?
that's her. That's
That
her in the
is
video.
her. Wow. A lot of people love that video.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's a very, very beautiful woman. I'm you can see visually why I fell in love with her.
Yeah.
But I
Oh
love her.
yeah. Great track.
Thank you.
All Good Soldiers. Great name for a song. Very Bowie.
Thank you.
Talk about All Good Soldiers.
So All Good Soldiers was in discussion with somebody else that I know, who we were in the same position, and we all felt like we were a little bit marching to somebody else's tune,
Right.
and me and this other person were very much masters of our own domain, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and respected and all that stuff, but we were still under the thrall of somebody else. So that's I don't really want to go into more specifics than that, but that's my favorite song on the album.
Love it.
Live it really sort of
Yeah.
great, because the guitar solo at the end is a surprise, and when it comes in, everybody's like, oh.
Yeah. Are you going to play the whole album on stage or most of it?
This weekend we're playing a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, things like Lupine and Kintsugi, which are probably my favorite songs to play,
Yeah.
we're not playing just because they're not the most commercial ones, and I
Right.
need people in to buy the record before they can experience it.
Yeah. Well, Kintsugi, okay. How can I show you what I feel while I'm crushed beneath your wheels? I never pray, but still you make me kneel. If I could melt right through the floor, or I could climb the stairway back, would we sleep until our skies turn black? I'm locked in a space and I can't escape. Oh man, that's incredible. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm a writer, so I love words. I've written a few books and I love
Sure.
to write.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's actually referencing a recurring dream. Like when I met Eva, I noticed something very strange about her. I used to have a recurring dream when I was a baby, like very,
Really?
very young.
Huh.
And there was a meditating elf, best way of describing it, with very sort of fine features and black hair,
Interesting.
in Eva's style. She was meditating. Met Eva, she had an avatar, which was a
Right.
meditating alien xenomorph.
Hmm.
And she looked exactly like my recurring dream that I had when I was a child.
Wow.
So I used to have to escape from this thing in the dream. And so, if I could climb the stairway back, that's all referencing the dream I used to have. And she knows what that means. And, now you do.
That is so cool. Very cool. Another track that I love, probably one of my favorites, is Bet Your Life, which is also very different than a lot of the songs on the album. It's acoustic, slower track, great vocals. It's a softer side exposed, I guess. You know what I heard in this with the drumming? I heard some Beatles.
Oh, a huge Beatles fan.
Yeah,
Love. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
there's some Beatles in there. The drumming sounded like Ringo. Who's playing drums? Is that you?
That's a sample. That's just a sample.
Okay.
I mean, I may have played some drums on top. I used to what I tend to. I'm not the best drummer.
Right.
Excuse me. I'm not bad, but I'm not the best. So what I tend to do is I tend to put a sample layer down and then play along, and then kind of hybridize the two.
Okay.
Probably that. And there's also a lot of cut ups at the end. It's like jitter drums, which is a more modern sort of hip hop technique. But I like that one. I wrote
Hmm.
that one as a bass line first. That was on David J's bass. Actually, the
Right.
bass he plays on Bauhaus. I borrowed it, or sorry, he lent it. Sorry, he left it at my studio. We were recording, and so I just picked it up. And some instruments will sing to you.
Right.
Some instruments will help you write something completely new. You've never tried it before. And David J's bass, there's
Hmm.
magic in that bass. He plays it when he's in Bauhaus. He plays it when he's in Love and Rockets. And so that, the echoes of thousands of people watching him play this dark, heavily sexy music
Hmm.
was in the bass. So I wrote about 8 songs with that bass because I just thought I've got to do this. I've got to just get as much as I can out of it. So I have about 8 songs that I wrote with his bass.
Earthquakes has cool bass on it as well.
That also has David's bass on it.
Oh man.
Earthquake's bass line is one of my favorites out of
Yeah.
everything because it's very Mick Karn, I feel, from
Hmm.
Japan, maybe a
Yep.
little bit.
You finished the album with Darkling You. Very different vocals on that one.
Yeah, I mean that was actually that was a request from Eva. She wanted a workout song.
Hmm. That's
So,
funny.
so I put it in a particular tempo. And then of course, the tempo doesn't really inform the song, but obviously
Mhm.
that one kind of, I mean, it feels more Nine Inch Nails-y to me. I'm
Right,
a
right.
huge Nine Inch Nails fan, and I just wanted something grinding and sexy and energetic. And
Hmm.
isn't that energetic isn't my general sentiment. I'm a
Right.
lot more sensual than I am,
Yeah.
but I really like that one. I haven't had the chance yet to play it live. Oh no, I have actually. I have. Sorry, total lie. I have played it live, and it's fabulous live, but not this weekend.
I want to mention David J. I want to give some kudos out to him. He wrote some great tunes. The day that David Bowie died, it
Sure,
was huge. She's in Parties, which I loved. Bela
wonderful.
Lugosi's Dead. All
Uh-huh.
We Ever Wanted Was Everything.
Mm-hmm.
With David Bowie featured on that video. So yeah, thank you for turning me on to that band because you know,
You could. I wish I could say go and see them live. They've played their last note live. Bauhaus have
yeah,
because
yeah.
unfortunately they had a bit of a fallout at the end. But one wonderful band. I saw them twice when they reformed because
Hmm.
obviously David's a friend, so he had the great grace of putting me on his guest list, and I cannot express how magnificent they were. They were
Hmm.
magnificent. I
Yeah,
saw the Cruel World Festival a couple of years ago, and one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. They were absolutely phenomenal.
yeah. I guess they're getting up there in age now, right? They've been around a long time.
I
Yeah,
guess maybe mid 60s, and
mid
maybe
'60s. Yeah. Huh.
something like
They're like my age.
that. They were big in what 83, 84.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, phenomenal. Bauhaus really. If I mean, Love and Rockets just did a tour too, which
Hmm.
was great. I saw that too. But Bauhaus, I'm sorry, that's all over because
Yeah.
I have a secret project with David J, which is coming up with a
Oh,
lot of
good.
special guests. I
Really?
don't know when it's supposed to come out, to be honest, but we
Hmm.
recorded something and I can't speak about it, so I
Yeah.
should stop myself. But there should be something coming this year, I hope.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. I want to touch on some other things you've done in your career. Film. You worked on the trailer for Maleficent with for the trailer, and you won an award for that.
That's
Which
the
is
award right
that's the
there.
award, yeah. Which is a
That's
really cool movie, by the way.
that was with Daisy O'Dell, who's a very close
Okay.
friend of mine. She and I did that for Disney,
Yeah.
and I did not meet Lana. Everybody asks me.
Yeah.
They recorded her parts in London, so unfortunately, I didn't get to meet her. But very happy with that. She did a fabulous job, and obviously, it was a very successful film, and I
Hmm.
loved the film. Actually, I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Laura, I believe, worked with Disney for a long time as well.
Did she?
Espinosa, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And gosh, she won 4 Emmy Awards.
Did she
Laura.
really?
Yeah, she won 4 Emmy Awards. She's
Is she
incredible.
is TV her normal thing?
She's done a lot of things. She's did a lot of documentaries in the past.
Mm.
Um, but she's worked for a lot of news agencies. She's amazing. She really is
Oh,
amazing. There's a lot more to Laura than you think.
oh, I think she's wonderful. I really like her a lot.
Yeah. Do you like doing can you working with like scores and things like that for or soundtracks?
I do. I gotta say I prefer it when somebody just takes one of my finished pieces and puts it into a score. That it's a
Mhm.
lot easier because I'm how can I put it? I'm a bit more into the art of making music than I am
Right.
into the commerce of it. So if I make a piece of music and I love it, I generally don't want to change it. I want it to be how it is. Somebody else can take it and change it, or I can do another version, and I don't
Mhm.
mind that. But if I'm doing the version I want and somebody's telling me to change it, it's just like it's not what I got into it for. I got into it for being my own boss.
Sure.
Although I have done film soundtrack stuff and worked on scores, and I do enjoy it. It's not the same as just writing music that
Mhm.
I which I love. I mean, that's something you can tell me, okay, write a song about this and give me that direction. I'll go away and I'll write the best song I can.
Yeah.
If you say, well, I don't like that part, change that part and change that part, I'll be like, well, now I'm not enjoying it.
Exactly. Well, Strangelove is an amazing band. You guys are incredible. And I know you guys sell out everywhere when you perform. Um, your actually name in the band is Oscar Wilder. Is that right?
Oscar Wilde, yeah.
Oscar Wilder. And you play the keyboards, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, backing vocals and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite a nice kind of relaxed job for me because I don't have to be the front man. Our front man
yeah,
is a young guy who's absolutely phenomenal. He's one of the
yeah.
best singers out there, and he is very fit. So he's whipping
Hmm.
around like a top, and yeah, I'm really privileged and proud to be in Strangelove. It's a great bunch of guys.
Are you doing the part of Andy Fletcher, who the late
No, no,
Andy
I'm
Fletcher, or
doing
no?
Alan Wilder.
Andy Wall, okay, all right,
So Alan Wilder was in the band up until the end of Songs of Faith and Devotion tour.
okay, gotcha.
And so once between, kind of second album, end of the second album and Songs of Faith and Devotion, that is considered to be the high watermark of Depeche Mode. So
Hmm.
Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion is the sort of crowning to glory of that band. And I use all of the original samples that Alan Wilder sold to the main guy.
Really?
Yeah, so I have all of his samples legitimately, the ones he used to use in Depeche Mode. So that's great fun to go through his samples and find out what he used,
That
and
is cool. Yeah,
that.
and you guys got the name from the band from the song "Strangelove."
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I looked. They had a bunch of hits, man. I mean, "Enjoy the Silence," "Personal Jesus," which was one of my favorite. "Never Let Me Down Again," "Should Be Higher," "Behind the Wheel." I mean, the list
Oh,
goes on and on.
they've had over 50 top 10
Yeah,
hits.
it's incredible. I,
People look at them as a niche band, but they're not.
no, they're not at all. You know, huge band. It's a shame about Andy Fletcher, though. It
Yeah, I mean
passed
that's
on.
he's the only one I've ever met actually. I
Is
met
that
Andy.
right? Really?
Yeah, he was very nice. My friend was signed to his label, and so I went on tour. Well, not on tour with them, but I went to visit them when they played in Barcelona.
Hmm.
I wasn't a Depeche Mode fan when I met him, so I didn't
Right.
really have any worshipful feelings towards the guy, but he was very nice.
Now, are you still doing Bowie tributes as well?
Yeah, I just did a bunch of stuff. It was Bowie's birthday last week, so I had a show on the Friday, which was
Hmm.
my show to celebrate my birthday and Bowie's birthday. And then I had
Happy birthday.
thank you. I had a Whiskey a Go Go show on the Tuesday last week also, and then I did a Bowie opener last weekend, Friday, with Strangelove. So yes, I've been fair number of Bowie shows. Yeah.
I'm shocked when Bowie passed away. I had no idea he was sick, you
No,
know.
nobody did. Not, I
Yeah.
mean, very few people outside of his family and bandmates did. So,
I go way back with Bowie too, and I was a big fan of Mick Ronson, guitar
oh,
player Mick Ronson. Oh, he was huge.
oh, he's one of the greatest that Bowie had. I got to tell you though that the three players with Carlos Alomar,
Hmm.
Dennis Davis, I believe, and I can't remember the name of the other one. There was three of them that stayed with Bowie from Diamond Dogs
Hmm.
all the way up to before Let's Dance, and they were the Carlos Alomar's great.
Hmm.
People just don't give him the same credit that
Right.
they give Mick Ronson, and you listen to all of Bowie's stuff and all the cool riffs like Fame and all that sort of stuff. That was Carlos.
Right.
And I would, I'd like that recognition to be shone on him because he's my influence. I mean, I love Mick Ronson. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting him down in favor of Carlos. It's just Carlos brought in something that brought Bowie from glam rock in that genre to everything else.
Right.
I mean, like if Mick had stayed, it would have been a glam rock band, and that would be it.
Oh yeah, sure. Do you do anything from Dark Star?
Black Star.
Black Star. I'm sorry.
We've done the song Black Star. We've
Yep.
done Lazarus.
Yep.
I don't. Oh, and I can't give everything away. I've done not with the band, but with the Electric Duke project. And Lazarus, unfortunately, was the week Bowie died, and we closed the show by accident with Lazarus, and a lot of people were crying.
Interesting.
It wasn't a good choice. The Viper Room has a hard out time on stage, so it was at the Viper Room in Hollywood, and they closed the show before we'd finished the set. So we finished Lazarus. Everybody starts crying, and we were about to go back and do Space Odyssey and All the Young Dudes, and we were allowed to. So we finished on the most downbeat note, with the last song he ever released.
Oh my God!
Like, with the video of him going back in the closet, being in a hospital bed. It's like, oh God, no, I didn't. That was not my intention at all. I felt really bad about that. But we've done Lazarus a number of times. It's a big song for Bowie fans.
Such a powerful tune, isn't it?
Oh, sure.
I mean, he was so prolific, to the end. Most people wouldn't do that. Go out that way.
I think if you're David Bowie, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
You got it. I mean, same thing with Leonard Cohen. I mean, Leonard Cohen's album that year was phenomenal. And even though he was kind of overlooked in the wake of Bowie, but Leonard Cohen was a big influence on me. Talk about lyrics, like he was the greatest lyricist in rock and roll. I mean, I know everybody says, "Oh, Dylan," and I like Dylan. Dylan's great, but Leonard Cohen was a romantic poet, and I love romantic poets. Like I like William Yeats. I like Byron, Shelley. Those guys, those are my cup of tea. Brian Ferry as a lyricist, and Bowie as a lyricist. Whereas Bob Dylan is all about of the world, pragmatic, political commentary, all that stuff, which is not really where my heart is at.
Right.
So it was always Leonard Cohen for me. And when Leonard Cohen died and he released the You Want It Darker album, that is as good a coda to his career as Black Star was to Bowie's career, I think.
I agree. Yeah. You're well read, man. I tell you, that's why you're such a great writer.
Well, thank you.
You do your homework.
Used to read a lot. Now I fly most of the time. So. You can't bring books with you on the plane because it's a real
So who were those were your main influences, I guess? Leonard Cohen and guys like that?
Leonard Cohen's a big one. Prince is a big one.
Yeah.
Prince, because I was classically educated and went to boarding schools, which is it's a really good education. I was very lucky. I was taught English by J.R.R. Tolkien's grandson.
Really?
Oh yeah. And so I had some really interesting and brilliant teachers. So yeah, I mean that's something that when you're quite well educated and you're expected to be intellectual, Prince comes along and talks about really filthy stuff it's really influential and it's really cool. It's like, okay, so you can talk about getting a blowjob as much as you can talk about, some highfalutin intellectual stuff. So,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate like Monty Python or
I love
Russell.
Monty Python.
Monty Python, they can do
Yeah.
something which is the summarized Proust competition, but it's done with just Proust in his first book wrote about, and it's silly. It's silly as hell, but
It
it's
is.
talking about really highbrow concepts. I just
Yeah.
think that's brilliant. I love being that. My first solo album is called Cogito Ergo Sum, which means it's from Cogito Ergo Sum by Descartes, but Cogito Ergo Sum means I think, therefore I am. It's the sort of fundamental dualist adage of philosophy, right? Now, my album is called Cogito Ergo Sum, which is in Latin. So everybody's like, oh, that must be really highbrow. But it actually means I fuck, therefore I am.
That's funny.
It's a philosophical joke. And the people who get it love it.
Yeah.
The people who don't get it thinks I'm a pretentious asshole.
I got to say, man, the Brits, you guys are so intelligent, just the way you articulate, the way you think. I love the Brit humor. Most of the legends I talk to, they all went to art school, and that's why they're so brilliant, and they know music because they went to art school.
But I mean, people who have been self-educated by listening to the right music, reading the right books. But Bowie was not educated at all. He read books. He studied Buddhism. This is the sort of person. You see, I'm more interested in the person who is self-educated,
right?
Discovered things through legitimate means. I don't mean browses YouTube all day and does conspiracy theories. What I mean is people who have devised their own intellect through great, like if you read a lot of Dostoevsky, you can't help but be educated at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to go to school for it.
Yeah. It's like the Beatles and the Stones. The Beatles, grew up the way they did, uneducated basically. And then the Stones went to all the best schools and had money. And the Beatles didn't have any money.
They went to art school. John Lennon went to art school. Mick Jagger went, Mick Jagger. Keith Richards went to art school, right? Brian Jones went to art school and John Lennon went to art school because art school teaches you to be critical thinking and to be creative in your thought. And that's how all brilliance comes through. Like Einstein was creative in his thought. He wasn't a great pupil, apparently. He failed at his school, but he was incredibly creative. So that creativity is an undervalued source, in my opinion. I think that a lot of it's not fair for you to make the British American comparison because I know a lot of Americans who are absolutely brilliant. I think most brilliant people in the world tend to come to America because there's money here for them.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of the, I mean, I live here. I live in LA, and I live here because I can make money doing what I do. And also it's good to be a novelty in somewhere like LA. If you're a Brit, people make assumptions, oh, well, you're very smart and you had success,
Yeah.
So, but it's an assumption because at the end of the day, it's like and I am very well educated. I'm lucky to say that. But most of my intellectual desires and rigor comes from my own explorations of the intellect, not necessarily from the schooling.
Yep. Did you come from a musical family?
Yeah, my grandmother won the Eisteddfod in Wales 1 year, which is a big musical competition. And I don't know what you know about the Welsh, but we're from Welsh stock. Yeah, and Welsh are some of the most musical people in the world. I mean, Tom Jones, Shirley Bassey, Manic Street Preachers, Super Furry Animals. Those guys are hugely brilliant bands that just didn't never made it here, really. But I mean, the Welsh are an amazing race. We're so overlooked.
And the Welsh are so different from the rest of England, because your language, you got your own language. Just the way you spell things are so interesting.
Too many L's.
Yeah, exactly. We had a good Welsh friend that just passed away.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I learned a lot from him. And yeah, I was a big Tom Jones fan. As a matter of fact, I just saw Tom Jones recently here in Florida.
Nice.
He's still going strong, man, in his 80s. I think Engelbert is also Welsh, isn't he? Engelbert Humperdinck.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
You may be right. I know
yeah.
my uncle is the spitting image of Engelbert Humperdinck.
Really? Is that
Yeah.
right?
He used to get mistaken for him all the time
Very
in the
cool. I
I'm
interviewed Engelbert, and he claims he invented the sideburns, not Elvis.
I feel, maybe the Middle Ages invented the sideburns.
I think so. I think you're right about that. Julian, here's your final question. I ask
Mhm.
everybody this question. I get some really interesting answers. If you had a Field of Dreams wish like the movie, that's my favorite movie, I think, to
Mhm.
perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be? Don't say
Perf-
David Bowie.
Perform or collaborate with anybody from the past. Prince. Prince.
Prince.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good
I
answer.
I would want to collaborate. I'd want to write a song with Prince. That would be the
Excellent.
perform with it, I would be dwarfed in his genius. There's no point performing with Prince.
Hmm.
You're just gonna lose.
Yeah. Yeah. We lost him too soon,
We
also.
did. We did. He was my number one for a very, very long time. I
Hmm.
unfortunately one I met him a couple of times in LA because he used to live here. And unfortunately, by that stage, he hadn't released anything that I was really into for a long time. But up to Sign of the Times, maybe Love Sexy even, he was unassailable. One of the
Right.
greatest musicians we've ever had.
Mm.
And but beyond Mozart, beyond Beethoven, all that stuff,
Hmm.
just the whole panoply, the
Hmm.
tableau of what he could do musically, whether it be imagination of sounds, imagination of songwriting,
Yep.
the actual iteration of playing the instruments, like everything. Nobody has come close to Prince. Nobody will ever touch him. They can't.
Yeah. You need to take a trip to Minnesota and see the compound, his
I've been,
house.
I've
Have you
been.
been there?
Yeah, we went with Strangelove.
Oh,
You're not allowed
cool.
to take photographs inside, otherwise I would have. I came two
Oh.
inches away from the OBX-A
Hmm.
that he used to play, the synthesizer and the Linn
Right.
drum he's on. And those two instruments to me are like that's the holy grail.
Hmm.
That's those instruments created my life going forward from the point where I heard Prince
Mm.
and decided to get into music. Like my whole life is because of the seed, the
Hmm.
germination that Prince planted in my ear. That one time, the first time I heard him, I just went,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. I wish they'd let you take photos.
Yeah. Have you done any Prince songs on stage?
Oh yeah, I have
Yeah.
quite a popular version of Time,
Okay.
Sign of the Times. Sorry, Sign of the Times. I'll send
Yeah.
it to you so I
Okay.
can share
Yeah,
it with
that'd
you.
be great. I'd love to hear that.
That was the explosion moment for me when I heard Sign of the Times, the single, for the first time.
Mm.
I had heard other songs which I loved.
Hmm.
I thought he was brilliant, but when I heard Sign of the Times, I was just like sharp intake of breath. Like, you have to understand. I was at boarding school in a cathedral.
Right.
So I was singing choral music in these gigantic buildings with big reverb, and
Yeah.
it was glorious. It's glorious being in those buildings. And then you hear something which is so tight
Hmm.
and funky, and it's the literal diametric opposite of the cathedral experience. It's like
Right.
the Cocteau Twins on this side and Prince on this side. And to hear that and to just like not be able to understand how does this even exist and try and figure it out, it made my brain work like
Yeah.
it was just magnificent. And I adored him as a character.
Hmm.
Like everything about Prince just blew my mind.
Amazing. Well, you're the second Julian I've had on my show. The first one was Julian Lennon.
Oh, wonderful.
Had a great conversation with Julian Lennon, and it's also a rare interview. It's hard to get Julian on an interview, and
Sure.
his answer, of course, to that dream question was his dad, which
Of course.
was a little surprising because they were close. They weren't very close, and but he's still very sentimental, and it would have been cool to see him perform with his father. You know, he sounded so much like his dad, but he was different. He was very, very different. His music was great. I love Julian's music.
Oh, he's wonderful. I know the guy who works with him actually. I was invited to come and join them for a session in Prague. I think they've been
Hmm.
recording. And unfortunately, I couldn't. I have a 9-year-old, and I don't get on with her mother very well.
Right,
So it's
right.
difficult for me to plan a meeting with Julian Lennon in Prague. You know what I mean? I mean, what a bummer, but
Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
That's all
I
right.
think you
I'm
guys
glad.
would get along very well together.
I believe so. He's been in town recently, actually. He was in LA recently, and
Hmm.
I have a number of friends who are friends with him. And I just don't want to, I meet a lot of well-known people, and I don't want to force myself into situations unless they want to meet me, because
Yeah,
they're not just a fan and they're just going, "Who's this guy? Why is he here?"
yeah.
You know. So,
You know, it's funny how music artists are starstruck, just like we are. You know what I mean? I mean,
oh, sure.
it's funny. Like John Anderson of Yes, I've talked to, and he was in front of I think George Harrison or Paul McCartney one day, and he was speechless. He couldn't even talk to him. I
Sure.
says, "Come on, you're the lead singer of Yes. Why can't you talk to him? He's a Beatle. He's a Beatle." You know?
It's the truth, though. I mean, I've met all of them. I've met everybody I've ever wanted to meet.
Really?
The one who really left me speechless was Robert Smith from The Cure, because
Okay.
the I didn't want to bother him. It was backstage at a Smashing Pumpkins concert, and it
Right.
was him, Gary Newman, and Billy Corgan. And I don't care about Billy Corgan or Gary Newman. I've met Gary, I've met Billy as well, but I
Right.
just fine, hi.
Yeah.
But Robert Smith deeply impacted my life. I mean, as a musician, Ray, it's like if you're a musician, it's musicians that deeply impact your life, right?
Yes,
Like,
definitely.
I mean, I don't care for sports. It's not sports people. It's not
Right.
actors. Sure, maybe every now and then, but it's musicians, because you hear what they have to say, you listen to their words, and
Hmm.
if it affects you, a word can have a deep and resonant meaning in your life going forward forever.
I agree.
It's a psychological key to something, right?
Yeah.
Now, Robert Smith has done that. Prince has done that. Bowie has done that.
Hmm.
Leonard Cohen has done that. John Lennon has done that.
Hmm.
Those 5 people have been my parents,
Hmm.
raised me. When I was at boarding school, they raised me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I used to lock myself in my room, as a teenager and headphones on and same thing, just over and over again, listening to these guys. My hero is always Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull,
Oh,
you
I
know,
love Jethro Tull.
and I
Fabulous.
got to interview him 3 times, including the last one was a Zoom interview. And but that was it. He would have been the only starstruck guy for me, but I got
Uh-huh.
over it fast. But the Beatles, if I met Paul or Ringo, probably wouldn't have done anything for me. I mean, I love the Beatles, but you know,
Well,
I
it's
didn't
not
get that.
John.
Huh? Yeah, John's
It's not
not
John.
here. That's true.
If it was
John's
John, I'd
not here.
be like,
If it was John, it'd be different. And
because, well,
talking to Julian was a lot like talking to John. They sound a lot alike.
yeah, I mean, I love Julian's stuff. I like Carmine, who I'm working with currently,
Right.
was Julian's bass player for a long time.
Yeah.
So I could contrive a meeting with Julian easily. But I just, as I say, I don't want to do it for that very reason. I could,
Right.
because if I'm working with him, yeah, I'll do it. But if I'm not, then it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I truly believe in the value and the power of music, and I do not like her at all. But Taylor Swift has taken the place of the Beatles in all these kids' world. Like, if she has a big, deep
Don't
influence
get
on.
me started on Taylor Swift, please. I
It,
am not a fan.
no, me either. But you have to give her credit for bringing music back into the cultural dialogue, because it's been out for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
Elon Musk is the rock star nowadays, and I'm not sure I want Elon Musk to be my rock star. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I tell you, I'll be honest with you. To me, the last representation of the Beatles, in a way, was the Spice Girls. I love the Spice Girls. I thought they were incredible. What did you
Sure.
think about them?
when they were around, I was in a, very like Muse-like indie rock band. So they
Right.
didn't really resonate with me, but I got it. I met them. I met the Spice Girls. I danced at the Brit Awards when they performed some song at the Brit Awards. I met Kylie, Spice
Right.
Girls, and they were firstly, they were all very pretty. I mean, like,
Yes.
I know that's like a weird thing to say because obviously they're pop stars and you're supposed
Hmm.
to look at them that way, but I wasn't expecting that. I was just like, oh, I have my favorite. I think my favorite was Posh, obviously. And Posh looks a bit like my ex.
Oh no.
Same haircut, same
That's
color.
funny.
So I thought it was Posh, and then I saw them all and I was just like, wow, actually, yeah. They really put a good bunch of girls together, and
They
they
did.
had great songwriters. They cared about the quality of what they were writing,
Right.
which is very important. A lot of pop artists now, it's like, wet ass pussy or whatever that song is. Like, I'm not shocked by that song. I just don't think it's that good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it feels like nowadays, if you have a 15-second loop that
Right.
does TikTok,
Yep.
that is what is music now for a
It's
lot
a
of people.
shame, isn't it? It's a real shame. And they need auto tune on top of that.
It is, and
Yeah.
you'd get to the point where music is irrelevant. Music is
Hmm.
just background for a funny meme.
Right.
Whereas we grew up taking the vinyl out of the thing, putting it on the
Right.
record label, looking at the artwork, and sitting with
Hmm.
the headphones on or listening to it, and it meant so much. It gave us something deep.
Hmm.
Our music is MP3.
Yep. I know.
It's completely available everywhere. I mean, there's no value to it in the same way as there used to be. So it's disappointing, but we live in that world, and like, you can't rail against it. But Taylor Swift has sold millions of vinyl copies of her album to
Yeah.
kids.
I know.
At least it's music,
Yeah.
not Musk or
True.
tech or an app or a
True.
meme.
That's
So
true. If you look at it that way, I guess,
you have to look at the good side of things. Otherwise, you just get depressed about
I know.
it.
I've been depressed for a long time about music. So,
Yeah.
which is a shame. So, what's next for Julian? You got this gigs coming up,
So gigs this weekend. I have
right?
two in Toronto. One is in on Friday at the Elmo
O-
Cambo, which is a very well known Toronto venue. And then on on Saturday is the Elmo, and then Sunday is the Mississauga Classic Bowl, which is a bowling alley. But the Elmo's sold out.
Okay.
Um, and then I am working on a new. Excuse me. Oh, on Friday my single comes out. Sorry, that's most remiss of me. This
Okay.
Friday, the new single Bleed comes out.
Fantastic.
Then next month, and then we're starting a waterfall campaign on the new
Hmm.
album. The new album is as a greatest hits album of all of my greatest hits from my 20 odd year career.
Hmm.
And we are doing it in a sort of we're re-recording a lot of the songs. So
Good.
Carmen is my bass player for a number of the songs.
Right.
He played on Let's Dance. He was the guy who played the doom, doom, doom,
Wow.
doom, 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 doom. And I'm like, this is the guy sitting in the
Wow.
living room
That
playing
is
on my
great.
song.
Oh man.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mike Gatson, again, is the piano player who played the amazing solo on Aladdin Sane. He's playing piano on two of my songs.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's going to be about 12 songs, greatest hits, new versions of greatest hits that I've recorded. That's going to be done over the next 12 months. So it's very exciting this year. We have actually a record label and a marketing people as well.
Mhm.
So that by the end of this year, I'll be a global, international,
I
interstellar
hope so.
rock and roll star.
I hope so, man. If there's anything I can do, I'm going to promote the hell out of Elysium. Okay.
Thank you.
I belong to all the streaming sites, Spotify, Apple, Google Music, everything, Pandora. I'm on all those sites. Um, I get a lot of hits on my websites, YouTube, so I'm going to promote the hell out of you, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And I sincerely mean it, Julian. You are an incredible talent, and you should be a big star. In anything I can do to help, just please let me know.
I really appreciate that, Ray. Thank you.
It's been wonderful talking to you.
You too.
The album, where's the best place to buy the album? I know you got Bandcamp.
Bandcamp is good for downloads. You can
Okay.
send me a message on Facebook. You have my Facebook, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You can send on my page, my Facebook page, rather than my personal page. And yeah, you can just send me a message, direct message me on that, and I have copies. Let me show you. Give me 1 second. I have a number of copies.
Oh, wow.
Sale.
So, yeah, I like the cover too.
Yeah, I tell you a quick story. So this is the cover now.
Okay.
This was the cover, and then unfortunately we split up.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, I honestly still love her, but it didn't work out. That's fine.
Yeah. What is she doing now?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, she's a burlesque dancer, and she's a very lovely young lady, and I have no ill feelings towards her.
Right.
And, sometimes these things don't work out, and
you
just have to accept it and move on.
Exactly. Well, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, Bandcamp. Where's the best place for the fans to buy the album? Is it Bandcamp? Or?
Well, Bandcamp's great for sure, but direct message me for a copy, because I'd rather have somebody have a signed CD.
I would love to have. Yeah. Okay, they could do that.
I'll send you one. Just tell me where to send it.
I appreciate that. I'll send it to you. One last question. The Singularity, where did that come from?
That was the band name. Well, it was never a band. It was just me. And I put my debut solo album out under my name, and it was great. And then I decided I want to go and play some shows, and I wanted to be more of a band vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Still recorded it on my own, but I got a band together. And the Singularity is from a book by Ray Kurzweil called The Singularity is Near, which is a book about futurism, which postulates the idea that, by the time that technology is an exponential curve, by the time we get to a certain point where AI is, we don't understand how AI has developed itself.
Right.
Point where it becomes more intelligent than humans, and then we don't understand it. That's the singularity. So where science outraces human understanding of science. It's
very
also
interesting. Yeah.
It's also the lip of a black hole. So a technological singularity is where a black hole, sorry, not technological, a physical singularity is where the black hole, the lip of a black hole, where space and time becomes confuses us, and we don't know what's happening there. So that's the black hole singularity. But the technological singularity, so I always put multiple meanings in most of my things.
Are you into physics at all?
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah. I was very interested in quantum mechanics and nanobots and things like that. So I've studied a little bit. My interests lie in lots of different areas. Theology, physics.
Me too. Julian, you're a brilliant guy, man. You really are. Julian, thank you for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure.
Ray, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm thrilled that you enjoy the record.
I love it. All the best luck to you, and enjoy the gigs.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I'll see you in Florida sometime soon.
I hope you do. Yeah.
Which city are you in?
I'm near Tampa.
Just missed us. We were just in Tampa.
Were you really? Oh,
yeah.
What were you doing in Tampa?
It's a bummer. We played the Ritz Ybor.
The Ritz in Ybor, yeah, which is, I don't know, 30 minutes from me south.
Oh, God, I wish I'd known.
Yeah.
Thought you were in New York for some reason, but anyway.
Well, I'll
invite you next time.
Okay, sounds great. All right, Julian, take care, man.
Appreciate you, Ray. Bye.
Bye-bye.